Welcome to the Sedge crop tank top tutorial. You can find a written pattern on my Etsy if you'd like. Feel free to comment if you need any more help. Now let's get started! For materials, we're going to be using size 4 weight yarn, a 5mm hook, measuring tape, a tapestry needle, stitch markers, and scissors. Let's start with a slip knot. We're going to do chainless single foundation crochets until we fit around our waist comfortably. I like to leave about an inch or 2.5 centimeters extra for some space. If you're doing a different size, make sure that your stitch count is in multiples of 3. For a size medium, we're doing 96 chainless single foundation crochets. Regardless of size, we're going to start and continue a chainless single foundation crochet the same way together. Let's chain 2. From here, we're going to work into the second chain from our hook. So 1, 2, insert a hook through both loops of the chain, yarning over a loop for 2 loops on our hook. Yarn over through the first loop only for 2 loops on our hook still. Yarn over through both loops for our first chainless single foundation crochet. If we turn our work to the right, we'll see that first stitch forming. If we turn our work to the left, we'll see these bottom chain stitches forming that we're going to work into. Let's do another together. We're going to work into the second chain from our hook. So 1, 2, insert a hook through both loops of the chain, yarning over a loop for 2 loops on our hook. Yarn over through the first loop only for 2 loops on our hook still. Yarn over through both loops for another chainless single foundation crochet. If we turn our work to the right, we'll see that second stitch forming. We're going to continue this until we've reached 96 chainless single foundation crochets. If you're doing a different size, continue until you fit it around your waist comfortably, preferably with an inch or 2.5 centimeters extra for space, making sure that your stitch count is in multiples of 3. Feel free to try on your work to make sure it fits to your liking. We're done with our chainless single foundation crochets, which counts as row 1. For a size medium, I've done 96 chainless single foundation crochets. If you're doing a different size, make sure to try on your work to make sure it fits around your waist comfortably. And also make sure that your stitch count is in multiples of 3. We're going to chain 1 and turn our work to start row 2. Our chain 1s do not count as a stitch. We'll be doing the sedge stitch for our top. To start a sedge stitch row, we're going to insert a half double crochet and a double crochet into the first stitch. So yarn over, insert a hook into the first stitch of the row, yarning over a loop for 3 loops on a hook. Yarn over through all 3 loops for a half double crochet. Yarn over, insert a hook into the same stitch as the half double crochet we just made, yarning over a loop for 3 loops on our hook. Yarn over the first 2 loops, yarn over the last 2 loops for a double crochet, and this marks our first sedge stitch of the row. We're going to do regular sedge stitches for the rest of the row. To start a regular sedge stitch, we're going to skip the next 2 stitches and we're going to work into the next available stitch and insert a single crochet, a half double crochet, and a double crochet into the same stitch. So let's do one together. So skip the next 2 stitches, 1, 2, insert a hook into the next available stitch and yarn over a loop for 2 loops on our hook. Yarn over through both loops for a single crochet. Yarn over, insert a hook into the same stitch as the single crochet we just made, yarning over a loop for 3 loops on our hook. Yarn over through all 3 loops for a half double crochet. Yarn over, insert a hook into the same stitch as the half double crochet we just made, yarning over a loop for 3 loops on our hook. Yarn over the first 2 loops, yarn over the last 2 loops, and there's a double crochet, and this marks our second sedge stitch of the row. Let's do another one together, which is the third sedge stitch. So skip the next 2 stitches, insert a hook into the next available stitch, and yarning over a loop for 2 loops on a hook. Yarn over through both loops for a single crochet. Yarn over, insert a hook into the same stitch as the single crochet we just made, yarning over a loop for 3 loops on our hook. Yarn over through all 3 loops for a half double crochet. Yarn over, insert our hook into the same stitch as the half double crochet we just made, yarning over a loop for 3 loops on our hook. Yarn over the first 2 loops, yarn over the last 2 loops for a double crochet, and that marks our third sedge stitch of the row. We're going to continue inserting sedge stitches until there are 2 stitches left of the row. For a size medium, we should have 32 total sedge stitches by then. Once we're done, we can move on to the next step. We're at the last 2 stitches of the row. To finish off a sedge stitch row, we're going to skip the second to last stitch and insert a single crochet into the last stitch. If you're doing a different size, make sure your stitch count is in multiples of 3 to ensure that after your latest sedge stitch, you'll also have 2 stitches left. So let's skip the second to last stitch, insert a hook into the last stitch of the row, yarning over a loop for 2 loops on a hook. Yarn over through both loops for a single crochet. This marks the end of a sedge stitch row. Let's chain 1 and turn our work to start row 3 and onwards. Remember that our chain 1s do not ever count as a stitch. I recommend trying on your work to ensure that it still fits comfortably around your waist and adjust if necessary. Now we're going to repeat row 2, which is the sedge stitch row.
For a size medium, we will continue to repeat until row 15.
If you're doing a different size, repeat row 2 of the sedge stitch row until your work fits just under your chest bust area. Once we're done, we can move on to the next step.
We finished our repeat rows. For a size medium, we've done 15 rows.
If you're doing a different size, you should have your repeat rows finished just below your chest bust area. We are now ready to do increases to fit our chest. Let's chain 1 and turn our work to start row 15 and onwards. We will continue doing sedge stitches until the last 2 stitches of the row as normal. Our increases will be inserted at the end of each sedge stitch row. Continue inserting sedge stitches until you have 2 last stitches remaining. Once done, we can move on to the next step. We're at the last 2 stitches of our first increase row. We'll skip the second to last stitch and increase by inserting 4 single crochets into the last stitch of the row. This will add 1 sedge stitch per row to make space for our chest. So let's skip the second to last stitch, insert our hook into the last stitch of the row, yarning over a loop for 2 loops on our hook, yarn over through both loops for our first single crochet. Repeat this 3 more times for a total of 4 single crochets in the last stitch of the row. These 4 single crochets marks the end of our increase row. Let's chain 1 and turn our work to start row 16 and onwards. Now we're going to repeat row 16, which is the sedge stitch increase row we just made to fit our chest.
For a size medium, continue to repeat until row 19.
If you're doing a different size or find that you need to adjust the chest sizing, continue to repeat or do less increased sedge stitch rows until the rows fit reaching the middle of your chest comfortably. So make sure to try on your work. Once we're done, we can move on to the next step. We've done our increase rows for the chest area.
For a size medium, I finished at row 19.
If you're doing a different size, make sure that when you try on your work, your increase rows reach at the middle of your chest. You may have to stretch your work slightly to ensure that the sedge stitches space evenly across your body since they tend to be slightly smaller in appearance. Now we can chain 1 and turn our work to start row 20 and onwards. We will no longer be increasing and we will create rows to add length to our top to cover the rest of our chest. We will insert a sedge stitch into each stitch as normal. In the last stitch of the row, we will just put a single crochet in the last stitch, no longer adding 4 single crochets.
For a size medium, we will be continuing this pattern of no repeat rows until row 25.
If you're doing a different size, continue to repeat your row until it covers the top of your chest. Once we're done, we can move on to the next step. We're done with our repeat rows to add length to our top.
For a size medium, I finished at row 25.
If you're doing a different size, make sure that your work fits to cover the rest of your chest. Let's chain 1 and turn our work to start row 26 and onwards. We will now single crochet into every stitch. Once we're done, we can move on to the next step, which is slip stitching our top. We're done with inserting single crochets.
For a size medium, we finished at row 26.
We're now ready to turn our work sideways and slip stitch our work together to finish the body section of our top. So take the opposite ends of your top and we're going to fold them sandwiched like so. And we're going to slip stitch from the top of the top all the way to the bottom. So let's insert our hook into the other side's first stitch. Inserting our hook through that stitch might be a bit tight, but you'll grab it. Yarning over a loop for 2 loops on a hook, and we're going to pull this loop through the second loop for a slip stitch. And we're going to continue doing this into each side stitch until we reach the bottom. So let's do another one together. You'll see these holes that will line up with the top, and you're just going to insert your hook into them and find a matching hole on the other side of the top, like so. Yarning over a loop for 2 loops on a hook through both of the work tops, and we're going to grab the first loop and just pull it through the second loop for a slip stitch. Once you're done, we can move on to the next step, which is the straps. We finished slip stitching our work together. You may see the top portion protruding out, but it'll even out once we flip our work inside out. We're now ready to chain 1 and fasten off. So grab your scissors, and we're going to cut off a tail long enough for us to weave in. And we can pull our working yarn through, and there we're done with our top. We can now flip it inside out, and you'll see that seam for our back area done. We're now ready to move on to the straps. We're now going to start the straps for our top. We will use stitch markers to mark the front straps location as well as the back straps location. The back straps, I've marked them 16 stitches away from the back slip stitches for either side. For the front straps, I marked the front straps 43 stitches away from the slip stitches for either side. If you're doing a different size or would like to change your straps location, feel free to try on your work and mark your straps to your liking. So if you'd like to count with me, you can see that this is the single crochet for the slip stitches. And if we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, that's where I would mark the first stitch marker for the back straps. And I would do the same for the either side, 16 stitches away, as well as the front straps, they would be 43 stitches away on either side. Once we're done placing stitch markers, we can move on to the next step. To start the straps, we're going to work from the front strap stitch marker all the way to the back strap stitch marker. To begin, we're going to slip stitch into the front strap stitch marker. So grab your working yarn and make a slip knot. Insert our hook through the same stitch as the front strap stitch marker, grabbing our slip knot we just made and pulling it through. We're going to chain 2. From here, we're going to do chainless single foundation crochets for our strap.
If you're doing the same straps as my size medium, we're going to do 43 total chainless single foundation crochets.
If you're doing a different size, I recommend continuing until you're able to fit your straps comfortably over your shoulder. As a reminder, we're going to work into the second chain from our hook. So 1, 2, insert a hook through both loops of the chain, yarning over a loop for 2 loops on our hook, yarn over through the first loop only for 2 loops on our hook still, yarn over through both loops for our first chainless single foundation crochet. Continue doing chainless single foundation crochets until we've reached our desired length for our straps. Once we're done, we can meet for the next step.
We finished our chainless single foundation crochets for a size medium. I've done 43.
We're now ready to slip stitch our strap into the back strap stitch marker. So let's insert our hook into the same stitch as the back strap stitch marker, yarning over a loop for 2 loops on a hook. Grab the first loop only and insert it into the next loop for a slip stitch. From here, we can chain 1 and cut to fasten off. So grab your scissors and cut a tail long enough for weaving and pull through to fasten off. We've now completed our straps. You're going to do the same thing on the other side, and we're now going to just weave in our ends to finish off the top. So some weaving tips with our tapestry needle. We can turn our work inside out, and we want to weave our end tails of yarn always in the wrong side of our work, since we don't want them to show on the outside when we wear it. So grabbing our tapestry needle, grabbing any end tail that we don't want to show sticking out, and we're just going to weave them through the inside of the work. And you're going to continue this with all your ends so that they don't show. And once you put on your top, it's gonna look really clean and nice. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Please consider tagging me on TikTok, Instagram, or Etsy. I'd love to see your work. Thank you!